side-by-side coming down, and it's going to be Caleb Hall taking it.
After 17 long weeks of trials and tribulations, the Solstice ProLine Cup Series arrives in Hampton, Georgia to close out the 21st season of competition. 3 drivers come in with a shot at the title, and they can achieve them in various ways. Michael Frisch has been dominant all season. The 22-year-old from Florida has 6 wins, including 3 in a row in the midseason stretch, but only 1 in the playoffs. He has the easiest run to the championship, where he can simply finish ahead of everyone else and win. Chris Wetz, multiple times a champion from Texas in Solstice Racing, and he has experience with stealing the show from everyone. He comes in winless this season in 2019A, but consistency as his friend, as an amazing season, brings him to this point. Expect the Texan to punch above the 71's weight, as he must keep Frisch in his sights. Joey Bailey, also 22 years old from New Jersey, and he has real racing experience, racing an open wheel car in the Northeast. He has 3 wins this season, but he has work to do. He did clinch the pole position, but he has to lead a lap, the most laps, stage wins, and win the race. But then Frisch can simply lead a lap, finish second in the stages, and finish 4th. He still wins the championship, as Rockingham really hurt the 51, but we will see if he can prevail. The 4th playoff driver to make the trip today is 4-time and defending champion of the series, Jake Poulin. But unfortunately for the Daytona winner, even with a perfect race, it's not going to be enough to give him his 5th championship. As one driver in the Final 5 that you will not be seeing today is the actual points leader of Cosman. Due to a prior commitment, the Romanian was unable to make the trip, and his championship ended with his win in Canada last week. With Brandon Nicholson on pit lane, Dylan Lovegood next to me, I am Josh Mertz, bringing you live flag-to-flag coverage on High Voltage Media Productions tonight from the Atlanta Motor Speedway in Hampton, Georgia. And Dylan, in our intro piece, we have a finale race from here from seasons past, and I've seen races where it gets immensely exciting.
Oh, absolutely. We're going to close this thing off in perfect Solstice fashion here. Can't wait for it to get started here, and it's going to take perfect execution by all of these drivers to pull off on top today.
As 3 stages for today's race, that's going to be crucial for our championship hopefuls. Stage 1 ends at lap 30, Stage 2 ends at lap 60. Those are 2 points paying stages, and the race ends on lap 124. Points coming in to today's race. Cosman, like we mentioned, he's not here, but he technically is the points leader with 3,064. Frisch has 6 victories with 3,057 points. Chris Wetz with 3,055. The graphic is probably incorrect for Bailey. It might say 3,048, but he did set pole position, so he has an extra point, and Poulin with 3,034, the Daytona winner. As this is going to be absolutely amazing. While there are only, looks like, 9 cars here tonight, we've seen all season long when the car counts drop, the quality goes up, as Joey Bailey and Michael Frisch on the front row of the grid, followed by Nick Baker and Brandon Lambert, as Ricky Johnson and Chris Wetz on the 3rd row. Then it's Jake Poulin, Jeremy Stanley, and Chad Mikas rounds out our 9-car field. As what's interesting to note, you're going to see those billboards in turns 1 and 2 all night long. Those billboards have all of our champions for the ProLine Cup Series. As Poulin, a 4-time champion, he will not make it 5. We'll see if Wetz can tie Poulin and Ryan Williams with 4 championships, or will Joey Bailey and Michael Frisch make a name for themselves here in Solstice? As before we get started, I just want to personally, like I've mentioned all season long, thank everyone for tuning in here on High Voltage Media Productions. It has been absolutely a blast. We did get the season opener date for next season at CRI Super Speedway. That's going to be July 11th. So that race, Dylan, is going to be absolutely amazing as well.
Yeah, and I mean, hopefully we'll carry this momentum from Season 1 along into the B season here. It would be great to see.
As just finishing up happy hour with a couple minutes left, Jeremy Stanley, 28.703 over Joey Bailey, a 28.709. Like I mentioned in my opener, It's really Wetz and Frisch. But if these guys are caught sleeping, Bailey can sneak this championship away.
Yeah, and it's really going to be a cat and mouse type game all day. We're going to play the strategies really hard. I mean, it's going to be like all season where we fought really, really hard to the first stage breaks. So look for it to be really, really intense here as soon as we drop the green flag.
As hashtag ProLine on HVMP is how you guys can join the conversation all evening long. And Atlanta typically produces some great finishes in NASCAR and Solstice, whether it's sim racing, actually real life racing. We've seen Edwards and Johnson. We saw Harvick and Gordon.
Drivers, to your cars.
It's been a fun one all season long, and we cap this one off here tonight.
Yeah, and it never disappoints every time we come here to Atlanta. I've run these Atlanta races, especially these season finales, and Josh, let me tell you, it's really, really tough. And these black walls around the racetrack, I love it. They're so intimidating for the drivers, I bet. Just coming and diving into the corner and coming out and getting really, really close to that black wall. And, you know, if you got a black car like Bailey or Poulin, might camouflage in. We'll have to see that if that comes into play here later on.
As about 10 seconds before we rev up the engines here in Atlanta, we just got to buckle these seatbelts, put the hard hats on. This is going to be a great race as we fire the engines here in Georgia.
I'm Staff Sergeant Proto with the soldiers of the 1st Cavalry Division. Gentlemen, start your engines!
Honestly, what can we expect tonight?
All right, everybody, just like we'll be talking
I
about
mean,
the transport
anything
tonight.
could happen, Josh. This, I mean, a lot of Solstice races, they feel like dashes. They feel like wildcard races sometimes, especially when you kind of mesh in this new format that we're running here. It makes, mixes things up, makes it always really interesting on track. But it's going to be everything that we've seen during this season times 10.
As Brandon Nicholson down on pit lane, he's going to keep us up to date on all of the points situations. As two of the title protagonists on the front row of the grid, and these guys have been facing each other all season long. And we've mentioned, can the 51 of Joey Bailey overcome the adversity of missing Rockingham to begin this final run to the championship? If he can, it's going to be the story for Solstice Racing, the story for him, as if he can pull this off and dethrone Frisch, who has been so dominant all season, it's going to be certainly something to talk about. As thank you all season for joining us here in High Voltage Media Productions as we get ready for the final race of the 2019 A Championship. Bailey and Frisch on the front row for 124 laps here in Hampton, Georgia. We're going to settle a championship. Green flag.
Yeah, and Josh, already a really, really slow restart here.
And Lambert peeks to the outside, making it 3 wide early. Wetz in the middle with Ricky Johnson and Jeremy Stanley, the Michigan winner, off of 2. Down the backstretch, Frisch had a great run over the 51 of Bailey. We know that Bailey needs to lead a lap to get that extra point. His live points all night long. We're going to be mentioning them to you. And off of turn 4, Bailey gets another point and put him within 8 points of Frisch.
So put a check mark on the checklist that he's got for himself today.
He has to do everything right in order to win this championship. All he can do, he can't worry about Frisch. All he can do is drive his race, do as much as he can. Frisch has got it easy. Frisch can literally just sit there behind him. As Lambert in the 46, who's had a tumultuous season in that M&M's car, peeking behind the 58.
Yeah, and so, I mean, there's no better way to make a statement to your fellow competitors, you know, that you really want this championship than what Bailey just did right there. Coming back around and leading lap 2 is huge.
As it's a decent margin from Lambert to 4th place Nick Baker in the 9. 0.2, 0.4 to Lambert, then 1.1 from Bailey to Baker. As Jake Poulin in the 21, like we said in the opener, He's out of Stanley around in the 60. Loops it out of turn 2. We were just mentioning Poulin's out of it mathematically. I don't think that's going to be a caution. But Stanley looped it off of turn 2. So the Michigan winner, who has stated that he will go full-time next season. So certainly good to see. And that puts Wetz one spot closer. But Wetz, obviously we're only 5 laps in, but not too good for the man from Texas.
You know, but never count him out, and you never know what he's doing behind the steering wheel, Josh, and we both know that. So, we'll see if when this car comes to life, how big of a dog he can be in this fight.
I mean, like we've mentioned before, in multiple, whether it's a NASA show or a Solstice show, he chooses not to have a mic in his helmet. All these other guys do. He chooses not to, and I think that helps him focus. And
yeah, and that's almost just as intimidating, Josh, when somebody is really close on your tail, and you have no idea whether they're upset with you or not. You never know with Chris Wetz. Chris Wetz is always kind of the Iceman, too, so, I mean, always watch out for him.
And we know how quick he can be when he needs to be. He was certainly up there in Canada last week. As Bailey continues to lead here on lap number 7, Frisch is not letting him go in the 58. As this is Frisch's first full-time season, along with Bailey, I do believe, in the ProLine Cup Series. And we have 2 out of 3 chances to get a first-time champion here in Solstice tonight.
And it'd be really cool if you could see one of these guys pull it off, because these guys have really had fun all season. Honestly, anyone in the final championship hunt deserves to win the championship, but it would just be such a cool chapter in Solstice history if these guys were able to get this done.
If we look at how many races there are this season, Dylan, there's obviously 18 races. Doing some quick math, I want to say Frisch, let's say he were to win the championship. He would 6 or 7 wins out of 18 races. That's nearly 40%, I want to say. So
yeah, and if you got that after
a
test, you wouldn't like that. But, I mean, that is a testament to how hard and how good he's been all season.
If we do a quick math, 7 divided by 18, 38%. That's given he wins it. 38% of the races Frisch won. But if we do 6 divided by 18, that puts him at 33%. So that would put him a third of the races this season the 58's been victorious.
Which is just unfathomable. I mean, anyone who's been on a championship streak like that, we've seen many greats do it, even in other sports. Tiger Woods, Michael Phelps. They come back from adversity, and Frisch kind of took the first couple of weeks, tried to figure it out fully, and then once he did, he really came alive and dominated. And if he can close this out in style, it would be huge.
And we mentioned this, at least I believe I did, when he was leading in Nazareth and he backed it into the fence very early on. He came back to win that race.
Yeah.
I mean, it's partially him, and it's partially, given the fact that Micus and Bailey wrecked each other, but I still think that Frisch could have won that race if those two had not wadded it up there.
And if he would have had a car to show up at Talladega, that would have been interesting as well. Could he have, dominated on the second Super Speedway round?
As Lambert and Baker battling for third here. As Baker in the 9, winner from Charlotte, and Brandon Lambert, the champion of Season 5. Interestingly, I was talking to him before the race and completely joking, of course, off the record, that, Lambert, you're a washed-up has-been, just like me, because I haven't won a NASA championship in a long time. And what he mentioned, he won his Solstice and his NASA championship in 2012 in the same year.
Yeah, and just like I was saying, you kind of ride that high, and it'd be interesting to see what Frisch could do outside of Solstice racing, taking this confidence if he can pull this off.
And he is hounding the back of the 51 of Bailey, and it's going to be a recurring theme all night, but we know that all Frisch has to do is stay near the 51 and stay ahead of the 71. Wetz is not having a good day. He is stuck behind the 21 of Poulin, who are stuck behind the 93 of Johnson. Put it into perspective, they're 0.2 of a second off of the top 2 as 3rd and 4th are battling. So 5th, 6th, 7th not having a good battle either.
Yeah, and then Chad a little bit off the pace. I know we mentioned Stanley hanging around the back there, but I know Chad didn't get a whole lot of practice earlier.
Chad actually just arrived at the circuit.
Yeah, everything just
I
rolled up.
I had to text him and let him know, hey, these cars are about to grid. You might want to jump in the car. And he was in the motorhome, and we were on the public scanner, and he's in the motorhome, and he's like, I'm trying to cook dinner.
Yeah.
And we told him to jump in the car. So Micah's not having the best of runs, but we know the 25 is going to get a reset for next season. And I mean, I really hyped him up at the beginning of the season because I personally believe that Chad Micahs is a damn good race car driver, and we know he can get the job done. Well,
he is, and then you take his personality too. We both, met him and gotten to know him quite a bit, and he's just got a magnet personality and a little bit of a following out there as far as viewership and stuff like that. So thank you to the Chad Micahs fan club there for watching every week in and week out. He doesn't care. He's just gonna go out, run, try to look good, and see where he ends up.
As Wetz gets by Poulin and Johnson, put him into 5th, but he's got a long way to go. He's got 4.4 seconds to gain on Bailey and Frisch. He doesn't care about Bailey. He cares about Frisch. This would put him tentatively 5 points instead of 2 behind Frisch.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a good thing for him that there's another stage, but 5 points would mean that Frisch would have to finish 6th, and he would have to win the second stage in order to be tied, and then it would be a winner-take-all.
Yeah, and Josh, looking at fall-off right now, we're only at about 6/10 right now here, about 18 laps into the run. That's not terrible fall-off.
We know that Atlanta is one of the tracks that has refused to be repaved, and we know from the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series that it certainly produces some great races with this worn-out surface.
And actually, Josh, I must say, as a battle for the lead, looked like it was getting ramped up there, but Frisch going to back out of it, taps the wall a little bit coming into turn 1. I was going to say, I think Wetz is right on par, because I'm looking at the times of these front runners and a couple of the other battles that we have going on the racetrack, and Wetz has lost the least amount of time since his opening, or since his best lap. So
29.601, 630, 602 for Wetz. We'll just have to keep an eye on the leaders. 646, 823, and Wetz runs a 656.
Yeah, so he's on par, Josh.
He's catching Baker and Lambert. If he can close up to them and pass them, I don't think he should worry about the top 2 for the stage. I think he would have to worry about getting by Lambert and Baker. That's 2 free points that he's losing. Because if he can only lose 1 point, or if he can rather lose 1 point over 3 points, that's an easier pill to swallow.
Sure, but I mean, look at him right now. He's knocking on their doorstep, and he's bringing people with him.
And he was faster than the cars in front of him. It was 29.722 for Bailey, 7.91 for Frisch, 9.19 for Lambert. Give him a Porsche at this point, and a 9.16 for Baker. If you're superstitious, you're not going to like this number, but Wetz ran a .666, and he is hauling the mail inside of Baker there in the 9. Is Wetz in the 71?
I think Wetz liked that lap time.
Let's see what he does. 30 point. Once it reflects, oh no, a 29.786. Everybody else was slower. So maybe we saw this last week, didn't we? That Wetz just pushed it and got some spots.
Yeah, and he didn't force the issue too hard here with Baker. Baker's going to try to fight back here a little bit, but 93 gave him a little bit of an aero advantage going into turn 1.
As Bailey, 8.85, Frisch, 8.88. And Wetz, a 9.64 as he goes to pass Lambert now. He was credited with 4th, but Lambert into the wall to the Season 5 champion.
And he's going to drive it off and hold it.
Battling for 3rd. We know Lambert can bounce it off the wall and hold the spot. Can we mention a good run by Ricky Johnson so far? We know the 93 part-time program so far, and he is doing a very good job.
Yeah, no doubt. Very impressive. That's actually one of the things I wanted to mention is he's making his way up through the field right with Wetz and maybe learning a couple of things from the veteran.
As 30.076. The top 2 were 200ths faster. if that, than Wetz. But Wetz is where he needs to be now. And if he is 4 seconds, exactly 4 seconds from him to Frisch, it's going to be a tall order with 5 laps until the stage break. But I think he might be able to make this happen.
Yeah, and Wetz may just say, look, I'm comfortable where I'm at right now. But obviously more is better, always.
As here's the thing. If I look at this this stat here in the opener, this is actually benefiting Bailey because Frisch hasn't led a lap yet, I don't believe, and Bailey can have Frisch finish second in the stages. He can win the stages. I don't think he's too rattled right now.
Yeah, no, and he's really trying to shut out Frisch this round. That's what he has to do.
As 30.1 to a 30.0 to a 29.935 as we come to 4 laps to go in stage 1 here in Atlanta. As Joey Bailey leads over Michael Frisch, over Chris Wetz. As our 5th playoff driver, Jake Poulin, our 4th, Remember, he is not mathematically eligible, so the 4-time defending champion will not be able to hold that figuratively number 1 plate if you're a Supercross fan past this race.
Yeah, and so tough break for him, but I mean he came out with, in style, won the Daytona or won the season opener at Daytona. I mean really just his entire season was plagued by just things that went wrong that were kind of out of his control. So tough break for Poulin, but good to see him still running strong here.
As coming to 2 to go in the stage. Remember, as Poulin's a 4-time champion, Wetz 3 times, and these top two, are not a Solstice champion, at least in the ProLine Cup Series. And Bailey wants to change that. Frisch, of course, wants to change that. 2 to go in stage 1. As Bailey and Frisch, looks like there was a car up in the wall. It was Lambert in the 46. If we can keep an eye on the leaders there, I'll take a look on my monitor to see what happened to the Season 5 champion. And it looks like he hit the wall entering turn 1, and it sent the car around, and he backed it into the fence.
Yeah, and so Frisch going to really try to push it hard through here, through 3 and 4.
As we're coming to the white flag in stage 1, Bailey leads over Frisch. Wetz, let's see what the gap is down to. It is down to 3.3 seconds, so he made up a second in the last couple laps, but it's going to be I don't think it's possible for him to make it any farther, but he still loses 1 point. That's, if there is a negative to that, that's the only thing. He only loses 1 point, so he is still within striking distance. As Joey Bailey took pole, he's led every single lap in stage 1, and he wins the first stage to set his sights on the championship. As Bailey, Frisch, Wetz, Ricky Johnson, and Jake Poulin get stage points here in Atlanta.
Yeah, and so like we said in our opener, it was going to be an all-out sprint here towards the first stage. Really a lot cleaner and a lot calmer, though, than what we've seen all season. I'm sure given due to the car count, but...
I'm amazed that Frisch didn't push it harder to try and do anything with the 51.
Maybe he couldn't. I'm not sure. We'll have to ask him after the race.
I mean, that's a valid point. Maybe he couldn't. Let's see if these guys pit. And then we'll pull in our stage winner to see what he thinks. As these cars look like they're handling really well. The 46 of Lambert down pit lane. And his season, as much as you love Brandon Lambert, his season is summed up by what happened a couple laps ago. Just bad luck all season.
Yeah, to put an exclamation point at the end of the season. That's how you do it.
In the worst of ways. In the worst of ways.
No doubt.
As
Let's pull him in then.
let's grab our stage 1 winner, Joey Bailey. And Dylan, it's all you.
Hey, dude, you made a huge statement there, leading that first lap. I mean, how does that carry your confidence here through the rest of the race here?
It's definitely good win in stage 1, but we got a lot of work to do to keep Frisch behind us the entire race. I think the only way we're going to have a shot to get him is if he gets no laps led or doesn't beat us in the stage. So he's right there. So one slip up, and I think we're in trouble, but we got a really good car, and hopefully we can stay out front.
Now, are you worried about him saving up anything?
I was when he backed off with about 10 to go, but I think we're just both kind of researching where we could run, where our runs could come in, and what lanes we can do right now.
Josh, anything for you?
I was going to tell you something regarding where everyone has to finish, but I don't want to get in your head, so I'm going to leave that to us and wish you good luck for the second stage, my friend.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it.
As now that we don't have our race leader connected with us in the commentary box, Bailey can lead every lap, win the race, finish first in the 2 stages, lead a lap. Frisch can lead a lap, finish second in the stages, and he has to finish 4th at a minimum. So it's going to be a tall order for the 51. But we've seen the 58, and dare I say it, because he's been great all season, but every once in a while, we've seen him crack, whether it's car issues or Nazareth when he spun. It can happen. Everybody is not bulletproof.
Yeah, and you see he's feeling the pressure right now, but he's not letting it get to him. He's locked in, he's focused, he says, look, this is my race to win, this is my championship to win, I can do this.
Let's see if he beats the 58 off of pit lane. He did.
Wow.
I'm not sure if the commitment line is the cone. We'll have to wait for timing and scoring, but according to all that, he did beat the 58 off of pit lane. So he is going to retain every lap led so far.
And that's huge. I mean, don't let Frisch lead a lap. That's all you got to do. Keep him behind you. Bailey's only focused about one car right now, and that's that red car behind him.
As Johnson beat Wetz off of pit lane.
Yeah, and so it'll be interesting to see what Johnson can do with that track position, whether he'll, kind of fade back and have a long run car like he did the first time, or if that good track position is going to benefit him and have him up on our monitors here at the front throughout the race.
As I believe we're doubling up this time, but let's see. As my race control scanner's not working, so we're just gonna have to guesstimate in here. But we are going green this time.
Oh, we've done it before.
Beginning stage 2, Bailey and Frisch, just like the beginning of the race, on the front row.
Ooh, big sloppy restart there for everyone.
As Frisch leads Wetz by 3 points going into the second stage, and Wetz got by Johnson on the restart, and this is Wetz's best chance. Will we potentially, dare I say it, see some retaliation from last week in Canada? Remember when they came together?
You know, it really is hard to say. You never know.
As Wetz is 3 points down on Frisch. Interestingly, technically, Cosman's still the points leader by 3 points over Frisch. Bailey still holds the lead. And now these cars are going to handle great because they all have new tires.
Bailey.
Bailey into the wall!
As I almost cut you off mid-sentence from saying that because I saw how loose the 51 was going through the center of the corner there. Wow, that's going to drop him all the way back.
That is huge. For the 51, he got loose in turns 1 and 2 and got nudged by the 58 of Frisch. And
we talked about that pressure.
And I mean, you can't blame Frisch. You're going 180 miles an hour and you're racing for a championship. If a guy gets loose in front of you, there's nothing really you can do.
Well, and they were sandwiched together for this whole entire opening part of the race, and so I'm sure that was... Hopefully Bailey doesn't view that as any malintent. I mean, it's like you said, it's just racing.
Now, is there going to be fire in the eyes of Bailey? Poulin got a little loose entering the tri-oval. One of the little-known things, and we have to mention it on every show at 1.5 miles, it's not a straightaway. You're still got 2 corners on that front stretch, and you could still junk it. Very easy to do that.
Yeah, no, banking car gets super light.
Wetz has to try and drive here. He can't let Frisch pull away. As Frisch in the 58, points leader all season. 1 in the grass. It's Ricky Johnson in the 93. He saved it. Bailey outside of Poulin in the 21 in the 51. 51 clears him. He's going to get underneath Jeremy Stanley. The run that Joey Bailey has had in the last lap and a half is astounding.
Yeah, no, he's there's definitely fire somewhere in that guy. I mean, look at that. That right side is just completely beat off the car. Lambert's going to
Lambert
beat some more of his right side off here.
Lambert hits the 21, sends him into the wall. There's a long-standing phrase, and I don't know if this is a myth or not, but I think it was Dale Earnhardt way back in the day, where he hit the car off of the wall and the right side was pancaked in. It made him faster. Do you think this is happening with the 51?
Oh, absolutely. If you hit that right side, I've seen it all the time. I had it happen to my car. I'd rub the outside wall a little bit. My
One around,
Superstock.
it's Lambert in the 46. I don't think it's going to be a caution, but the 46 got loose again. That spoiler is pointing at a 40, well, not a 45-degree angle, but I want to say about a 115-degree angle to the deck lid, and that's not helping him.
Yeah, and so like I was saying, hit that car just right, get it bent, and you know, I don't know if it's a myth or not. I just think that, you know, if you hit the wall, you get that much hotter underneath your helmet.
As Bailey, 28.934, Wetz at 29.074, Frisch and 28.984. These are down to the hundreds and the thousands, but every inch, every millimeter counts in racing. And those little advantages that Bailey has over Wetz, do you think Bailey's going to get up there and try anything, or does he know because he was loose?
Oh, he needs to get back up there and try something. He's going to try to knock first on the 71's door, and if Wetz doesn't want to answer, we'll see what happens there, but I guarantee we will see him up there with the 58 before the end of the race.
Wetz was 0.2 of a second faster that last lap than Frisch. So the 71 searching for a different groove.
Now, Josh, my only concern would be if Bailey runs the tires off of his car because he's mad, which he's backing up a little bit to the 60 right now, which is going to bring in the 25 and the 21.
As Mikas and Poulin there in those two Chevrolets battling the 60, the Ford Mustang and Jeremy Stanley. Lap time wise, let's take a look. Frisch was quicker than both of them, 0.174. Wetz a 2.22, Bailey a 2.61. Will Lambert get in the way of these guys? I trust he will not. But the 46 has been ill-handling all evening long.
Oh, and where have we seen this before, where a car is beat up after spinning a couple of times and right in front of the leader? I can't look, Josh. I can't look.
As Frisch 0.107, Wetz at 1.80, Bailey at 2.29. So Bailey's still in third. For the Michael Frisch fans, he's led 9 laps so far. Bailey led 34. And this is what he needs to do. He needs to assert his dominance on the ProLine Series by staying out front.
Yeah, and he's just reclaiming his kingdom right now. He wants that throne.
As it's a hornet's nest here for fourth between Stanley Mikas, Poulin Baker, and Ricky Johnson. These guys are on top of each other for the lower points paying positions.
Yeah, none of these guys fell off, and really there's not much real estate to be had through the entire top 10 here. Or, well, no, we only have 9 cars. That's a dumb thing to say.
As we know that 9 cars can make a hell of a race, and it's certainly proving that you don't need a huge field, and I've said that the last couple weeks, because there's a lot of people that run Daytona, test it out, and then they get to the playoffs, they don't make the playoffs, and they don't show up. And from one side of the coin, I ask myself, and I ask myself because I'm not going to come across like that, but why would you run all season long, miss the playoffs, and not show up? But the other half of me says that's cleaned up the racing, because remember Daytona? We were on the air for 2.5 hours. Nazareth, I think it was an hour and a half to 2 hours. Those big fields, more wrecks.
Yeah, and
more
I think,
opportunities for error.
Oh, absolutely, and I think that's kind of why this vice is getting so tight here, and we're in the season finale now, and it's just getting ready to break, is because you have trim back on it, and you have a fresh coat of racing, and the races go by so much quicker. It becomes a lot more intense because it's an all-out sprint to the end. You expect those 3 or 4 cautions midway through stage 2. Well, guess what? They're not going to happen, and you are screwed.
As Frisch, a 10th faster than both Wetz and Bailey. Now, if the stage were to end right now, of course, Frisch would be another point ahead of Wetz, and that's where it gets tricky, because that puts Frisch 4 points ahead of Wetz. At this point, if they are on the top 3, Frisch can just finish behind Wetz. and still win the championship. So this is where it gets tricky because I want a car around. It's Lambert in front of the leaders.
Oh no. Oh no, Bailey!
And Bailey's in it.
Why did I say anything? Oh.
And the championship hopeful. I think his night is coming to an end.
Oh, why did I say anything? Oh, the racing gods have not been nice tonight, let me tell you.
And Joey Bailey, after such a strong stage 1.
Yeah, and we're gonna have to back the tape up on this one and take a long, hard look at it. I mean, look, I've done it. That's why I mentioned it. I, meant to poke fun more at me than, curse us.
We'll have to see if the 51 team can fix up this car. I don't doubt that they can. We saw when Dylan Smith went into the fence in Darlington, they fixed that car up. He got really close to winning that race.
Yeah, and so Josh, if you can keep our viewers with what's happening on the racetrack right now here with those guys, we're gonna go ahead and bring up this replay.
As this gives Wetz another chance to try and beat Frisch into turn 1. And Mike is 3rd, Johnson 4th, 5th is Stanley, 6th Poulin, 7th Baker, and 8th is Bailey. Let's see who will pit on lap number 50. I'm surprised, well, Wetz can't do that. I was thinking he could lead a lap and get an extra point. That's what he's really got to do. And then that'll offset the stage issues for the 71.
Absolutely. Oh, man.
He only has to go 10 laps, so maybe the 71 crew will try something unique. Maybe they'll give him 2 tires. That'd be crazy to see. Did he miss his pit stall? Did the 71 miss his box because he cruised right through pit lane?
Oh my goodness.
He missed his pit. This is huge. And dare I say it, and while he's won championships in Solstice racing, we've seen this in NASA before, where the 71, sometimes it just all falls apart.
Well, he never makes it easy on himself.
As he did win in season 19, so a year ago, for the 71. As he jokes with Frisch, he says this will be a good time for a black flag for the 58. Of course, Frisch says no to that. But this is going to change up everything. I don't know. I think Wet should stay out. He's on the apron. I really think he should stay out. This is his only chance. He's not going to do it. He's going to pit. This is huge. 71 pits of Chris Wetz. And that's going to take him out of the top 2. And unless he can get up there, granted there's only 8 cars, if he can slice through this field, that's the only shot he has, because that'll instantly put him, if we look at the points, because he is 3 down on Frisch, that'll put him 8 down on Frisch. That's nearly impossible because there's no stage points awarded on the final stage.
Yeah, and this might be a little bit of a new concept for Wetz, I'm not sure. Trying to play the stage game. I mean, it's tough trying to piece all that together, and we see, you know, one thing crazy happens in the race. I mean, that was a huge thing that Bailey got knocked out there by Lambert, and that really gets inside your head. You're like, oh my goodness, well, this whole race is turned upside down now, and sometimes people just lose their head a little bit. I think we might have saw that with a little bit of the strategy there with the 71.
As I think we're going to go green this time here in Atlanta. As I think Bailey's just going to let the 71 by him. Because he knows. As they were able to fix most of the damage, they had to tear the deck lid off, or the bumper off of the 51. We'll have to see if he can keep up to speed. But we got 8 cars left here in Atlanta. And we're going to close stage 2. Michael Frisch, points leader, will lead us down next to defending champion Jake Poulin. Green flag to finish stage 2. as Poulin got a terrible restart.
Caused
Dashed up the
Johnson
high
to spin
groove.
the wheel. Thought.
Stacked up the field there. Stanley, the inside of the points leader. Will Jeremy Stanley interfere with this championship battle? You know he did in Michigan. Wetz is in 4th. If Stanley can get by Frisch, this is going to be huge, but the 58's so dominant on the outside.
Yeah, it's really,
know
you can
how-
stick that 58 anywhere, and he's going to really fight you hard for that top spot.
We know how twitchy these cars are. We know how Frisch drives. Wetz to the inside of Poulin. Got a little loose there on the bottom groove in the 71. He's going to go up the hill, pull it into the wall. Stanley in the draft of the 58.
Yeah, and that 21
Car
using
length.
up every bit of real estate down there in Champions Corner.
Car length, make it 2.5 from Frisch to Stanley. Wetz to the inside of Poulin again. He's got to keep the 58 in his sights. 5 laps to go in stage 2. As Bailey, lap time-wise, 28.9, he's faster than everyone except for Frisch. Mikas on the inside of Wetz. Will Wetz soar it into turns 3 and 4? I watched some footage of him and Cosman. I think it was a couple seasons ago. Wetz is amazing on the outside in Atlanta.
Yeah, and you know, it really takes the high line to be into it, and you got to be into the high line to win it.
As Frisch still leads. Wetz literally was turning right into turn 1, and that's what you have to do at a track like this to be fast. He peeks to the inside of Poulin. He's going to fight the defending champion for the 3rd spot. Frisch trying to pull away. Wetz clears Poulin. Mike is now battling Poulin. And Stanley stands between Wetz and Frisch. He's got to run the outside again, but it looks like he got his nose cut off by the 60 there. He didn't have the downforce into 1. That's going to get him passed by Poulin. Will he drop in the draft? He will, of the 21.
Yeah, and Josh, if these guys can gang up using the draft on Frisch, we might have something here.
As these guys, this is insane. I love racing at Atlanta when it's like this. This is incredible. As all 8 cars on track are within a second. Literally 0.98 from Frisch to Baker. As it was 0.36 from Frisch to Stanley. We're coming at 2 to go on lap 58, car 58, points leader leads. And you know that Frisch wants to win this championship in style. He's got half a race left. Can he close it out? 2 to go. Poulin to the inside of Stanley. If you want me to shut up, feel free to interrupt.
No, as I'm just waiting to see how this is all going to unfold behind him. Nearly 3 wide.
Wetz behind Stanley. By a car length, maybe make it a half, make it 2. And Wetz needs to make something happen to stay within a couple points of our points leader. White flag in stage 2 for Michael Frisch. Wetz to the inside of Poulin and Stanley. He's going to make it 3 wide.
Attaboy, Wetz going to really dive it down there hard on the bottom. Going to try to fight those guys up with the momentum.
He's got to make it happen to stay within the sights of Michael Frisch. As Frisch into turns 3 and 4, I think he's going to cruise it down to stage 2 victory. Stanley 2nd, Poulin 3rd. Wetz is not going to get there as Frisch leads and wins stage 2. Stanley, Poulin, Wetz. And then it was Ricky Johnson.
And Mikos and Bailey rounding that out.
As that is going to be... Is it the final nail in the coffin?
I really hope it's not.
We'll have to wait for Brandon Nicholson down on pit lane, a statistician, to get something for us. Bailey is an 8th. We can basically write him off, unfortunately, given the circumstances. And Wetz has to make something happen. Let's see who's going to pit here at the end of the 2nd stage. Once they exit pit lane, we'll grab our points leader and race leader. And let's see what happens. Wetz did make his pit box this time. So the 71's actually going to get service with the rotation.
Yeah, and really, he didn't, fare too bad, even though being stuck back in traffic after that pit road deal last caution.
Let's see who exits. Frisch. Will the 60 beat him off of pit lane? It's going to be close. Stanley did.
Wow. And Chris Wett's still on pit road. He's going to start from the back again.
As Frisch is 7 points up on Wetz. Now, I don't have that graphic in front of me, but I'm sure you do. While I pull it up, let's see if you can pull it up. The point system. Really fast. Race winner gets 30 points. So this would essentially mean that Frisch has to finish 5th and Wetz has to win the race because stage points are out the window. That was the biggest chance for Wetz. The biggest chance. And due to the circumstances, I don't think it's going to happen. Granted, we still have 60 laps to go, but that's a tall order because Frisch has been up front all season.
Well, but Josh, we've seen just about everything unfold in this race, and with Bailey being knocked out here early on, that opens the door wide open for everything, and it could happen to Frisch. You are not... Oh, is Poulin and Maiko's going to pull off some strategy here?
And come to think of it, I did... something happened to me. I think it was... You'll remember this. I think it was 2017 C. It was NASA Rallycross. It was Bent Twig. It was the penultimate race of the season. And I knew that I had to finish ahead of my teammate, Wetz. Sorry to interrupt myself there. Wetz is on the grass mowing the lawn in the 71. Not sure what's going on there, but...
Shenanigans.
I was facing my teammate, Philip Kraus, as NASA Rallycross for those last couple of years. While we're still running, just working on some dates and times there. We'll keep you posted, but it was a battle between the two teammates, and I had to finish ahead of Kraus. I had to make sure that I did a perfect race, and I did. But then we came together, we wrecked each other, and then Kraus's engine blew. So Kraus finishes down on points. I finished second. Brandenburg somehow wins the race, wins his first race.
Oh, that race. Yeah, yep.
And then we go into the final round, and it's a winner-take-all. While that was the penultimate race of the season, the circumstances still remain the same. Anything can happen, and that's such a cliche thing in racing. But anything can happen because we could have Frisch, hopefully, of course, it doesn't happen. We could have Frisch wadded up in turn 1. I mean, it's just a thing.
Yeah, nobody has immunity in this whole deal.
As it looks like we're getting ready to go green to begin the final stage of the championship. Stanley and Frisch on the front row. Will we see some redemption? Look who's behind the 58. This is interesting. Stanley pulling away. Will Bailey get some redemption on the 58?
Oh, I know he's licking his chops right now.
As Wetz to the inside of the 51 of Bailey. Ricky Johnson on the inside of our points leader. Into turns 3 and 4. Stanley trying to pull away now. But Frisch is so good through 3 and 4. Look at the run he's got in the 58.
Yeah, huge
He goes
momentum.
to the inside of Stanley. Outside of Stanley. That's crazy.
Trying to juke each other out, going into Champion's Corner there.
Stanley
Frisch
got
really wants
loose
his
on the
name.
bottom through 1 and 2, and it puts Frisch back to the lead.
Yeah, and Frisch really wants his name on that billboard down there in turn 1 and 2.
As Ricky Johnson in the 93 goes to second.
Yeah, and I am really impressed by Johnson this race. He really had a lot of speed right off the bat, and we're continuing to see him do well. Just power around the 60 car there.
As Poulin on the outside, the junior lane in the 21, battling Baker for 8th.
Yeah, and we are joined on this restart by Brandon Lambert, who has hopped out of the car, cleared the infield care center, and Lambert, I know you gave me a lot of crap for kind of when I did that. I mean, I know you're feeling bad, so I'm not going to try to beat a dead horse here, but walk us through that.
I don't know. Car went to shit. Excuse my French. But car went to crap. I've already spun it twice already. It was just loose as I'll get out. I couldn't control it. Couldn't get it tightened back up. I don't know. I've hated this package all season long. I can't get the car handle how I want it to. I can't keep up with the fast guys. I'm just glad the season's over, to be honest with you.
And Josh, you were talking, or you were joking in the opening bit about Lambert being you know what, and well, look, here we all are, just washed down by the river.
We're all sitting up in an air-conditioned commentary box watching these guys race. I mean,
We are well weathered.
we're not eroded like the rocks by the sea, that's for sure. Frisch leads over Ricky Johnson here on lap 69 of 124. Unless my timing's wrong, we might be going to 125. Lambert, if you want to confirm that one.
Yeah, we're going to 125.
As Frisch, if we look at our timing, he's about to pass by Bailey for laps led. And if things go the way they have been going, we'll give Frisch the bonus point for leading the most laps. So Wetz is struggling. He has dropped from second, well, basically battling for second, to sixth. And I don't know what happened in the 71, but it certainly fell apart. But you know what? I like these formats better than the Final Four because you know why? While the Final Four is a good format for NASCAR, say that happened to Bailey, not to bring it up again, Lambert, but say like he was dominant all season, the points reset, and then that happens. I mean, it's in this kind of format, you have to be more consistent. You have to plan for mistakes. And to be honest, if Bailey was able to make Rockingham, he might have had a points cushion. Because we know Bailey's fast. He might have had a points cushion, not have to worry about this.
Well, and you really look at who got strong and who fell off. I mean, they're those two names exactly. Frisch fell off there at the beginning of that playoff run, and we saw Bailey on. Yeah, I would have loved to see how this would have played out if Bailey would have had just one extra race.
As I could imagine that he'd have been stupid quick, as we know that he's won on a multitude of racetracks. He won at Mid-Ohio, so the up and down elevation change there. He won at Talladega, which, granted, that's Talladega, but he was pretty dominant then. And he won in Miachovo in Russia. Still working on that show. Figured we'd tell you who won anyways, because I don't know when the Russian government's going to allow us to broadcast that race, but we'll certainly get that to you. But the airport, it's a flat track. So, I mean, it's all about throttle control. It's a lot like Colorado. And what's interesting is Frisch won there. So those two drivers, if Bailey can make a championship run all season next season, I think him and Frisch, that's going to be a hell of a duel, honestly.
Yeah, and I really hope to see those two competitors back this next season. And as we got a battle here, Ricky Johnson bounced off the wall.
As Johnson hit the wall in 93, Stanley goes down to the apron nearly to pass him. He gets the spot back. Frisch clinches most laps led. Mikas in the on the bottom there between him and Johnson. Johnson gets loose in the tri-oval. Johnson's not familiar with this, I don't think, but he's doing a hell of a job. He's doing a hell of a job on the 93. Way up the hill, washes up. So is Mikas. Stanley boxed in on the outside there in the 60.
As calling a group of Canadians, they almost just all said, sorry, going into the first corner and tried to give each other room, and then, that didn't work out.
Oh, as 50 laps to go here in the season, Michael Frisch, something about him clicked in the 58. And I don't know if I think I mentioned it off air. I think I might have mentioned it on air. But the last time before this season that I saw Michael Frisch race was 2012 Charlotte for NASA Rallycross. I only saw him practice. And to put it into perspective, he was seconds off of the pace. It was you, me, and if Lambert's still up here joining us, it was us three who were leading that race back then, and Frisch was seconds off the pace. And now, look at him. 6 wins on the season, leading this race, leading the championship. He put his foot down.
Yeah, and it's really been incredible to see the development come from the 58 team and just throughout his entire career. I mean, I've raced with him many races for a long time. Just a really, really nice guy from, up over there in the Northeast, and really has a good attitude, just tries to have fun with it, and I mean, by all means, this is well deserved by him if he can pull this off here in these last few laps.
As he's got a 0.8 second lead over Micus. Johnson's battling Micus, so is Stanley. Wetz is in 5th. The championship hopes for the Texan are fading. As Bailey, as well as I looked through the field, Nick Baker's clutching, so maybe we're going to get some fuel strategy here.
Well, and we saw him do it in Charlotte. You know, this is where we do it. When it
29.6 for Bailey last lap. He ran a 29.891. He was 4.3, basically 4/10 off of the 58.
Yeah, and without that aero advantage, it gets really, really tough in a hurry once you start losing that front pack.
As 58 pulling away over Chad Micus. Chad said he didn't like Atlanta, but he's certainly not doing too bad.
No, and
Frisch.
actually, you know, for a man who was stuffing his face just before the broadcast here, doing a good job. Must have had some pasta or something. Who knows?
As Frisch, Micus, Stanley, Johnson. I just can't give enough praise to Ricky Johnson tonight.
Yeah, I love seeing that car up front. Such a beautiful paint scheme. Looks really, really cool against these black walls, and for him to run up towards the front of the field is, you know, a huge statement to some of the pitfalls that he had in his previous attempts.
Now, some people would say, oh, yeah, it's only an 8-9 car field, so that's easy to do. But what I look at, I don't look at position. I look at lap times. He's hanging with these guys.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, and then, you know, you look at it, and you look at the small field, and that might have put a whole lot of pressure off Ricky Johnson, because as a new driver here in Solstice, I've been a new driver here, you don't want to wreck anyone. That is, like, you know, the worst thing that you could do as a new guy anywhere. And so I think he was really biding his time, just learning a few things, and now he's going to put it on showcase now that he has a little bit more room to navigate through the field here with the small field.
So Bailey pits. As we close out the season, we're going to give you a quick theoretical update for Chris Wetz to win this championship. If lap times didn't exist in a perfect world, he would have to win the race, and Frisch would have to finish 5th in order to be down by 1 point. So, given the lap times, given the circumstances, Wetz still has a chance, but he got by Ricky Johnson. He's going to battle with Micus, but then these guys have to magically get faster to pass Frisch.
Yeah, that chance is growing ever so smaller, Josh.
As the 71, we still have to commend him. I mean, granted, you know, every statement that I say, I don't want it to seem like this is sealed, because like we've said, anything can happen. But with 40 laps to go, if it does not happen, Wetz has had a hell of a season. Not winning a race and coming this close to winning the championship.
Yeah, and you know, he's done that so many times in his career. It's a shame he's only been able to either not get it done a couple of times, but, you know, he never quit throughout this entire season, and just slow and steady wins the race sometimes.
He got by Johnson. He's battling now with Stanley. I'm still curious to know if he can get to the back bumper of the 58. Will there be redemption from last week? That's another thing. We've got 40 laps to go in the season. Wetz, if I remember correctly, because it's been a while since I raced him, he doesn't seem like the type to carry a grudge through the season.
No, not at all.
But maybe there is. Like, you always, as a racing driver, you are always selfish. You don't care about the guy ahead of you. You don't care about the guy you're racing. We see in photo finishes, you're beating and banging to try and get an edge over him. Dare I say it? Would there be something to happen for retaliation for last week?
Well, you know, Josh, I've raced many, many times with Chris Wetz as my teammate. It's not over till it's over, and especially I've been in that championship battle with him, and it's scary. It really is, because, like you said, he doesn't talk much. Really, he's a real iceman in the sport here, and you know, he remembers, you know, from like 3, 4, 5 weeks ago when you did give him that bumper, but that might have just been for, you know, P5 halfway through the season. So I guarantee he remembers that, actually.
You know what I actually thought of? how was the championship battle? Because I've actually never formally asked you this. How was the championship battle in 2014A between you guys in NASA?
Oh, that's such a great story. We had so much fun running as teammates together, and we really got into each other's head. I mean, you've been there with a teammate before, trying to battle and stuff like that. You get a little bit deeper than maybe the 71 and the 58 are doing through this championship. But man, when you have that 71, giving you heck week in and week out, and then all of a sudden you have to go put it on the line there in that 1 week in that championship finale, you're sweating like a pig, dude.
As we get a report from Nicholson down on pit lane that the 25 of Micus looped it off of turn 4. He ended up at the end of the pit lane. He was running in 6th. So the 25 is going to stay out of the way of the leaders. This puts Wetz still in 2nd. He was 0.2 of a second faster than Frisch that last lap. Let's see what happens with Frisch. 30.0. Wetz of 29.9. I wanted to ask you about that between yourself and Wetz that season, because I remember that was the season that I had some issues with my car and I wasn't able to race the last couple races. But I have to agree with you on a teammate level. You get into their head, whether it's sim racing, whether it's real racing. Lewis Hamilton, Nico Rosberg, Valtteri Bottas, Lewis Hamilton. It happens. Me and Phil, me and Cody, Erdman and Kraus. You share data, you share lines, you share everything, and then you got to go out and line up against this guy, and you got to say, oh, well, he knows everything that I know. How the hell am I going to beat him?
And so then, Josh, let me piggyback on...
As Johnson, looks like Ricky Johnson has looped it in the 93, and he pulled it off the track. So Ricky Johnson, his championship and his Atlanta race is over off of turn 2.
And that's definitely unfortunate for him, but he should have his head up coming out of this race. He's really done some great things and made a statement here today, for sure.
As continue what you're going to say. Sorry.
Yeah, as I was saying, it kind of puts these top 5 guys who are running for, championship, even back when we did the cutoff, when there was, 10, 12 drivers in this thing, you almost get put into a group with them where it makes you feel like you're teammates with everyone, because it's literally you guys against the rest of the field, because you see Stanley, you see these other guys, they try to come through and they try to spoil things because they don't have a horse in the race. And so, you play the strategy a little bit, you defend yourself, and of course there is an added level of secrecy because they're not teammates, but, it gets to be a tight-knit group of guys there towards the end of the season once you start eliminating more and more people, and I'm sure the messages just flow back and forth.
As if you're just joining our coverage here on High Voltage Media Productions tonight from Atlanta, we've had a tumultuous race. Joey Bailey involved in an accident with Brandon Lambert as Lambert was getting passed by the field. That puts Frisch into the lead, points leader, very commandingly, over Chris Wetz. 9 cars started today's race. We have 3 retirements. Lambert, Chad Micus, who actually just pulled it off the track. His crew went to jack up the right side, and he jumped out of the car. So I'm not really sure what happened there, but we know Micus wants to get back to his dinner more than likely. And Ricky Johnson, who had a hell of a run in the 93, that puts him out of the race. Joey Bailey in 6th, 1 lap down. Frisch has announced that he's going to pit. So maybe, and we've seen this before, when Cosman had some issues on pit lane. So maybe this is Wetz's chance.
Yeah, and this is the money stop right here all season. This is your $1 million pit stop here.
Is he going to follow the 58? He will. So we'll keep an eyeball on the 2 championship contenders. Poulin assumes the race lead. You've got to stop in your box. You've got to have the team jack up the rights. No miss lug nuts. Jack up the left. No miss lug nuts. Drop the car and go, and do not speed. We've seen the 58 get bit by pit road penalties. We've seen the 71 get bit by pit road penalties. This, forget everyone else that we're focusing on. This is it. As Brandon Nicholson down on pit lane, what you got for me?
Yeah, these drivers are definitely they are reporting on the cars being both too loose and too tight. Lambert complained about the car being too loose earlier. Poulin queued up and said that there's one way to drive the track, and that's That's pretty much all that there is to it. These guys coming off pit road, they're right neck and neck, Frisch and Wets.
It's down the backstretch. They all have new tires. This is the opportunity that you can dive it into the corner. You can flat foot it, and you can try and get the momentum. Where are the other leaders? Stanley, Poulin, and Wets.
Well, Wets is there.
Baker. Wets peaking on the 58. This is his best chance. They're going to get by the other leaders, and they're going to be back to the race lead. We're coming to 27 laps to go. Wets is there on the 58. Will he make something happen? To the inside of the points leader. Down the backstretch. Frisch v. Wets. I literally am trying so hard to speak. It's so hard not to speak. Wets to the inside. Can't make it happen. Frisch. This is what he needs to do. He needs to keep the 71 at base. Wets doesn't care. He's going to drive the stuff off of the 58 to make sure that he can't pull away. Bailey technically leads the race, but he has not pitted yet.
Yeah, and so watch this. This is going to be veteran versus, well, not technically newbie, but newbie to the series. We're going to see Wets try to lay down the law here with the 58. He's going to just toy with them, try to get that 58 to go as far out there as he can. And Wets is just going to try to ride behind him and hope that the 58 burns up his stuff, gets the right moment to just move him out of the way, and who knows?
The points, it's still Frisch with leading the most laps so far today, as it was 0.2 of a second from Frisch to Wets. As just over an hour into the race here in Solstice. Solstice races are a combination of endurance and sprint races because these cars are driving terrible. You've got to drift these cars around this track, but it's also a sprint because there hasn't been any cautions really aside from the stage breaks. Bailey is going to stay out of the way of his championship rivals, obviously due to earlier season's championship hopes evaporate there, but what a run for Bailey this season, and like we mentioned, what could have been hindsight's 2020 due to the Rockingham mishap where he could not race.
Yeah, and Josh, this is a direct byproduct. I mean, the sprints are these stages, and the way that Brandon Lambert and the rest of the Solstice admin team have crafted this points championship to play out this way, and then tying it all together is all about the endurance and whether you can get everything done, you know, and be able to seal the deal and really, I mean, there's so many races that have gone on where you just don't know if it's going to go either way, and then here we are at the end of the season. We've seen so many races go so many different ways for so many different drivers, and here we are this close.
And this is Frisch's first full season in Solstice competition, and what better way, if he does, to storm onto the scene, come so close in Daytona. Please don't forget, nobody forget that he came within a bumper of winning the race in Daytona.
Yeah.
And then he wraps it up. Like that right there, because I thought him and Poulin, because Poulin was great all season until Colorado, I think. And then something he just fell off the wagon. He lost a wheel. And then everything just fell apart. But the fact of the matter that, remember, Frisch, I think he blew up in Chicago. He blew up in Talladega, but everything else has been bulletproof.
Yeah, and then he had that really huge hot streak there in the middle of the season. We didn't really talk about him winning races that much. We've talked about him winning a lot of stage points, and that's really what helped him propel his way through the whole series. I mean, what a student of the game, where just sitting there, winning the stages, collecting some good consistent points at the end, and then really putting what you learned to the table here in that mid-season, and then just trying to put a bookend on that whole thing.
You know that what that reminds me of, and it's not because I did it, but because I was the same way. I think it was 2014 B for NASA. You remember all those heat race wins? You get a bonus point in NASA when you win your heat race. I had some bad races, just like Frisch did. If you play your cards right and you take advantage of the bonus points when they're given, you have that cushion, and that's what gave him that cushion when he had those engine failures.
Yeah, and, Josh, we look at it, I mean, there's been so many, I've had a season like that where I've had to overcome that kind of adversity, and it's a good feeling. You've had to do that. Lambert, we still got him in the booth. He's had to do that as well. I remember him missing the first ever race that NASA ever held and coming back and dominating that championship. Well, I say dominate, but it was really close. And I know you're going to be salty about that till the day you die. We could talk about that later, but I mean, we see it happen.
All we got to say is Riverside turned to sand. That's all I want to say to you for that one. But I mean, yeah, I mean, and think of Kraus too. It was 2017 B for NASA. He missed the first round of the championship in Linden Hill. He finished on the podium every other race.
Yeah.
Like if you play the game you're given, it's beating a dead horse really. But the fact that we saw Wets come so close on pit lane, so close on pit exit, and Frisch has just had something over these guys.
Yeah, well, and if you look at it, it really reminds me of Jimmy Johnson. You know, Jimmy Johnson always tries to go all out in the 500. Everybody wants to win that first race, and then his team reels it back a little bit, and they say, all right, we're going to get some R&D done on these fellas here, and we're going to really hit them here for the playoffs. We haven't really seen that, but we saw Frisch hit him really hard with the run to the playoffs. So that's what that reminds me the most of.
There was a long time there where, obviously, when I was growing up, I was in my teens there, and every single season, I would watch the practice for the shootout, and I would think to myself, who's going to beat Jimmy Johnson?
Yeah.
You know what these guys are thinking? Who's going to beat Michael Frisch? Because how can you... And it's going to be hard next season, because, again, Truex, last year he came so close. It was... who else? Jason Anderson is a big one in Supercross.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, he only ran like 2 to 3 races, but he got hurt. But I remember the first round of the season in January. He was nowhere. Close to Tomac or Cooper Webb. You've got to carry the momentum. It's so hard to win a championship, but it's so much harder to defend it.
Well, and then look at, we're all Supercross fans here, so look at two things. Look at Tomac, and he kind of did the same thing. He really stepped up to the plate midway through one of his seasons, and then he still hasn't been able to get it done, and that just goes to show you it doesn't matter how good you are, you got to be able to play the format, play the game right, and get it done at the end of the season.
Because motocross, what? He's a two or three time defending in a row champion, and he's leading, I think, the points. I haven't caught up with it for the last couple of weeks, but outdoors he's great. Indoors, it's his kryptonite.
And
he's
you
super
piggyback
fast.
on that too. You look at the different formats that we've run. You can almost think of that as kind of that stock basic package that a lot of people are accustomed to running in the community here, and the cars drive really similar throughout different series. Now this is a completely different format. We're seeing guys like Poulin, Bailey, Lambert, struggle with this new format change, and it's dominance does not translate into GOAT status. I must say, you look at the guys who can get it done in any format out there, and those are the ones who are the best of the best.
As again, relating to the regulation changes with NASA, we remember the NR 2003 days of NASA when it was me, it was you, it was Wets, Kraus at the end there. We switched to iRacing. I'll be honest, I was nowhere compared to Parisi, compared to those aliens. When you change the regulations, just like Mercedes and F1, some guys are going to struggle. The old guard's going to struggle. You're going to get some new people.
Yeah,
and Frisch is proving.
Well, and as we've been discussing, Wets has been pulling up more and more, and I think that really is a testament to who Chris Wets is and how much talent he has, because you look at him, he's overcome both formats. He won season 19. He's close to being runner-up right here in this championship with a completely different format. I mean, that takes a lot to do.
As Chris Wets, a champion in, let's see, says 3 on my list. Season 13, Season 15, and Season 19. As, granted, 10 laps to go, still anything can happen, but we're getting closer and closer to etching Michael Frisch's name onto the ProLine Cup.
And Josh, let's talk about a few of these great names that we have here in Solstice who have won championships. I remember the great Jordan Robson. I believe Caleb's probably Has Caleb ever won a ProLine championship?
Caleb Paul has not won a ProLine championship. As Lambert, I believe you were about to say something. If you're still joining.
I know Lambert has, right?
Lambert won in season 5.
Correct.
As a couple of the names, just so you're not clueless. Brandon Lambert, David Krikorian. We know how great DK is across any discipline. Josh Chin, Jordan Robson, Chris Wetz, Adam Kodal, Ryan Williams, and Jake Poulin. In the 10-year history of the ProLine Cup Series, 8 men have won championships, and Michael Frisch trying to make that 9.
Yeah, what an incredible list of names to put yourself into if you're Michael Frisch.
As those group of names, they've been around for so long. Granted, Chin and Robson. I haven't spoken personally to those guys in 5, Robson 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
But it just shows that how long this has gone, and it's amazing. I mean, it was. I'm gonna remember this, and if anyone remembers this race, they're gonna think it's hilarious. But there was a Sunset Racing race, 2008, and I'm not ashamed anymore to admit it. I was 12 years old. And I wanted to join these guys, and I wanted to drive so hard. And I thought, I didn't need traction control. I don't need stability control. I spun like 3 laps in a row. And the fact that those guys, for this long, they've etched their names. It's crazy.
Well,
it blows
Josh,
my mind.
I mean, it really means it really humbles you to be in that type of experience pool with all these different people who have become icons, and there's people who have had great success here and have gone on to be icons in the entire community, and then the community never forgets the type of racing and how hard Solstice racing is, and that's why we continue to see through 2019 here live on HVMP this great coverage, this great championship battle, these great drivers. It all keeps them into it.
As we get the final laps of the 2019 A season, Frisch hits the wall there, but I think that's not one of his worries. Michael Frisch leads over Chris Wetz, Jake Poulin, Nick Baker, and Jeremy Stanley, your top 5. Joey Bailey, 6th. 7th, Ricky Johnson. 8th, Chad Mikas. 9th, Brandon Lambert. Those 3 off the circuits. We got 6 cars left to round out this season.
And Josh, what do you think's going through the 58's head right now? I mean, you've put in this much effort, and now we're finally here. He's under 5 laps away from closing this out. What do you think's going through his mind? Well, of course we'll ask him at the race.
I mean, I remember my first NASA championship. You remember those circumstances.
Oh,
Adam
yeah.
Simons, I got into him. He pulled off for me, and it's when you finally close it. And that season, that was 4 wins out of 8 races. That's a 50%. Frisch is going to do the same on a longer distance of races. It's you finally, for so long. Granted, Frisch has won championships in other disciplines. Don't get me wrong on that. But to come to this series, to come to this caliber of racing, these drivers, and just smoke them all, and you come off a turn 4 in the next couple laps, and to break the 4th wall, he's going to be screaming at his monitor. He's going to be screaming at his wheel. At least I would be. I did it for my 4th NASA championship when I raced Philip Kraus. You're going to be and realize, what the hell did I just do? Did I just do this? 2 to go for Michael Frisch in 2019A.
Well, and Josh, we know how colored of a person or personality that Frisch has. I can't even imagine what's going on. I can't wait to interview him here after this race if he can get it done.
We had 1 car around. It was Poulin in the 21. Poulin's got a blown tire. Will he get to pit lane? He's not going to get to pit lane. That's a little scary for these leaders. 1.5 miles from Michael Frisch to close out his maiden Solstice ProLine Cup Series championship. It has been 18 weeks after coming so close in Daytona, after wrecking in Nazareth, after blowing up in Chicagoland. He won 3 races in a row and told these guys, I'm going to win this championship. You're not going to let me down. You're not going to hold me down. He blew up in Talladega to begin the playoffs, but coming off of turn number 4, the 22-year-old from Florida is going to be the 2019 A Solstice ProLine Cup Series champion in the best fashion as he wins in Atlanta. 7 wins, and Frisch wins the championship.
And I mean, this is going to be a popular championship for sure. Like we've said week in and week out, he is the class of the field. Him, Bailey, Wets right here, who's going to give him congratulations there. I mean, these guys all ran and fought really hard to the end, and I was so glad that I could watch it with you and watch this unfold here.
As we're going to give him a moment as Nick Baker comes by, Jeremy Stanley comes by. I'm excited for Stanley's championship run next season. I think that's going to be a hell of a run for the 60 team. As Wets. And granted, I haven't seen him win a championship in Solstice. The facts are there, so I'm not saying he didn't, but Wets comes so close yet again.
And there's going to be a lot of people who are going to want to chase after this championship now after Frisch doing this.
As Michael Frisch, we're going to let him burn this house down as our new ProLine Cup Series champion for 2019. As wins in Nazareth, Homestead, New Hampshire, Colorado, Indianapolis, Rockingham, and here at Atlanta. Put a stranglehold on this title. And once we calculate it, he wins the championship by 10 points over Chris Wetz. There's nothing more that I can really say until we talk to the man. I have not seen a dominating performance like this in a long time.
And could you really have imagined it any other way, Josh?
I couldn't. I had never seen Frisch race, aside from 3 laps in practice 7 years ago. I thought it was a fluke that he got so close in Daytona. But now we're here 18 weeks later, and he puts his name on that trophy.
Just shows you never judge a book by its cover. I mean, this gentleman definitely has a hard cover on his book, and he's going to add the Solstice ProLine Championship to it as a chapter.
As I'll let you handle this as we pull in our new champion.
You know, and Frisch, just walk us through. I mean, it had to have broke your heart when you ended up getting into Bailey. Just kind of walk us through that incident and how that changed your mindset for the rest of the race and the championship.
Going throughout that first stage, it was really difficult to pass. As soon as I knew 10 laps in, it was hard to get just the bumper of somebody just because of the air. So I knew any opportunity I had to take it. And he got loose. The door was open. I don't know if I got into him or not. I didn't see the replay, but if I did, I'm sorry. But I mean, when the door is open in the championship and it's on the line, you got to take it.
Yeah, and we saw, I mean, you know, that incident and then him getting caught up with Lambert. Once that happened, and then you kind of saw the 71 creep into picture, did that change anything that you were doing for the rest of the race?
What's in this tire saving? Yes. It was throughout the head, like, it was in the back of my head. This man's saving the last 10 laps. He's going to charge. But I kind of paced myself that last run. I knew. Yeah, I lost a lot of confidence in my first run because I couldn't get around Bailey and I was saving tires and I just didn't know what happened. So I lost a lot of confidence right there. So in the lead, I just tried to back it down and try to pace myself a little bit better. And it worked out in the end. You couldn't really get to my back bumper at all and make a move or anything.
And then week to week, I know in your off days, you're thinking really hard about this because with as much time and effort as we all put into this operation here, it really means a lot to be able to come off on top. When you were struggling kind of there early on, coming into the playoffs, did you ever doubt yourself, or did you just know that did you kind of learn in those first rounds what to apply for this last round?
Well, every playoff league that I've made it to, my luck when I get into the playoffs just seems to just, go complete shit. So I knew I was gonna hit a couple bumps here and there, but we managed them and we got through them. But sometimes you just can't. I knew I think one race I blew up or lost fourth gear and I couldn't even finish the race and somebody gained a lot of points on me. But
Chicago.
Yeah, Chicago, there you go. But just like in those predicaments, you can't really do anything. You just gotta lay back and watch the field and hopefully the top guys wreck or something.
Yeah, and Josh, well, first off, congratulations, and hey, thank you for always being awesome up here in the booth with us. It's made the broadcast really exciting, and hope to see more of you next season. Want to really see who's gonna fight against this and try to get some redemption this next season. And thanks for making things really, really exciting throughout the entire season, both on and off track. Josh, you got anything?
As I just have to tell you from personal experience, like on these shows, granted you're racing so you can't hear us, but on these shows I talk about a lot about NASA Rallycross. I remember you 7 years ago in Charlotte. You ran like 3 laps in practice. To be honest, between both of us, you'd probably agree you weren't the quickest, and then you never showed up again. That's the only time I saw you race. And this season, seen. Words are hard. It's been a long day. I've seen you develop into this guy that doesn't give a damn of what people think, and you're stupid fast. But I just got to tell you, from one champion to another, it's a different discipline. It's going to be very hard to defend it. But if you can defend it, that's going to prove to these guys that this wasn't a fluke.
I totally agree with you. To defend, that's a statement that I would have to make, but that's big to go back to back.
As congratulations, my friend. Brandon, do you have anything for our champion?
Yeah, definitely. Frisch, I just wanted to ask, David Krikorian, Jordan Robson, Josh Chen. I don't know. I'm sure you've raced against a couple of those guys, but how does it feel to be on the same list of just great champions along the Solstice ProLine history?
It feels awesome because back in the day when I remember I did the Solstice Dash Series, and I remember racing with a couple of them back in the day, and I didn't really know them, but just to hear them names and be on that list, knowing who they were back in the day is just it's great. It's amazing. It's an awesome feeling. Don't take anything away from a small car count because the talent in this field is outstanding. I mean, these guys have been doing it for years and years and years, and I take it as a passion because it's a game where we all grew up around, and it's how we all met each other. So it just kind of, you kind of want to push yourself to the limit in this game to run better and just show yourself to know who you are, to get your name known.
Yeah, and the man cool as a cucumber from the East Coast. We were talking about that. I accidentally misplaced you. I thought you were from the Northeast. I thought you were just a gentle Yorkie, but no, homeboy from down in Florida.
I'm Florida boy
here, and yeah, dude, I'm just couldn't be happier for you, and really glad to see him be able to get it done here.
As we're gonna grab our third place man in points here before we sign off. It's going to be actually Bailey, according to those points, finishes 4th, but we'll grab Bailey here. Frisch, I just want to say good championship, my friend, and we will see you at CRI Super Speedway in a couple weeks. See if you can start out that championship strong.
See you guys soon.
As Joey Bailey, I'm going to have my friend here, Dylan Livingood, conduct this interview, but I just want to tell you and ask you, and I hate to ask this, but what do you feel after starting the race so dominant?
Well, I know I messed myself up on that restart, and from that point on, I was just trying to get everything back I could. And then I saw Lambert spinning, and my ARCA brakes just kind of came into play, and was hoping I was going to be able to clear him. Just barely got into him.
Yeah, man, Bailey, I just feel so bad for having that happen to you. Describe what it feels like for this long run you had, and what it's like to just kind of get that almost stolen away from Canyon like a baby.
Oh, well, I mean, it's part of racing. You're going to have your good days and your bad days. And when it counted, it was just not meant to be tonight. But I think we showed all throughout the year we had speed and we were competitive week in and week out. There's just some stuff I got to do better and some stuff you just got to have more luck in. So looking forward to coming back all season next year and try to beat Frisch for that championship.
And when you look at next season's program, I mean, just walk us through kind of what your expectations are and your goals going into next season.
just try to take what we learned from this season. This is my first full season with Solstice, and learned a lot. And just go out and try to win more races and try to beat Frisch.
As is that driver going to be the big target for you next season?
Oh yeah, definitely. I know there's going to be a lot of heavy hitters going into next year, but being a defending champion he is, and how fast he runs everywhere you go, it's just going to be the guy you have to look at every time. Every time we come racing here. So, looking forward to it, and I think as a team, we're going to be capable of beating him next season.
And, if you could have any races there on the schedule back, I mean, I know obviously the one that you missed you would love to have back, because it'd be maybe a whole lot different conversation that we'd be having up here at the booth. But if there's anything, if you could take your one biggest mistake you had in any race all season, what is it and what can you learn from it?
Nazareth. Definitely Nazareth. That was probably the most fun I had racing there. And then I just completely screwed up that race. But that track was a lot of fun. I'm kind of big into the short tracks, but I also like the 1.5 miles, and I like everything. So I think they had a really good foundation of different tracks this year, and I'm really excited to see what next season brings.
Yeah, Josh, you want to add anything?
All I want to tell you is don't hang your head, because 3 wins on your debut season fighting against the Goliath that was Michael Frisch. I mean, Mid-Ohio, Talladega, and Miachovo. 3 completely different racetracks, and you won. I think that says something about your ability to wheel a race car. So I just want to tell you, good run for this championship, and hope to see you next season, of course.
Thank you, appreciate it. Do you guys know where I even ended up?
According to tentative finale points, you did apparently finish 4th. That's very tentative, because I think, given the damage to the car, it says Poulin 3rd, Wet 2nd. So even if you came home 4th in the points, like Dylan said, I think Rockingham, that'd be the one race, because there was a lot of points missed there.
Yeah, for sure. But I'll take it, and we'll come back, and we'll try to improve on that next year.
And so then, lastly, I really wanted to ask Lambert, you've kind of been the maestro for a lot of this. You've been the power behind a whole lot of gears in this operation. What does it mean for you to be able to get this kind of exposure throughout the season and have these good caliber of drivers and such a tight championship battle all the way to the end?
Oh well, that's what we're looking to do each season is, create the best competition we possibly can, and get the best drivers that we can. There's no doubt about it that Frisch was an absolute monster this season. He won multiple races, 7, almost literally half the season. And he was in the fight almost every week for when he didn't win it. Figured out this package, and he drove his butt off. As for me, I was happy to have a really good competitive season, even though I wasn't a part of it. I've missed my chances at Michigan to get myself into the final 5, but but with this new package, it was a learning curve for me, and now we're going to go to a completely new package next season, which will be another curveball. But I'm pretty sure we're going to see the top guys back at it next season, and hopefully I'm one of those top guys next season. But there's a lot of good tracks coming up on next season's schedule that we didn't run this season. A lot of familiar tracks, a couple of new tracks here and there, but for the most part, it'll be I think it'll be one of the best seasons we ever put on. The new package will be a little bit slower. Not as much speed, cutting down horsepower, adding a little bit of drag to the car. So we'll figure out how that goes.
And Josh, Lambert, chastise me after the broadcast later if you wish, but there was a little bit of something on the line here that was a little bit more than points, I do believe, and I think we're going to have a little bit of that next season as long as commitments hold out, correct?
Yeah, that's for dag, I'm sure.
And what I mean by that is some cold hard cash to some of these guys who ended up doing well in championship this season, and then whoever can get it done next season.
Oh yeah. So the pool this season was $200, $35 the champion, and less money as you go down. So Michael Frisch will win $35 for his championship this season, and then next season we're gonna up the pool to $300, and it'll be for the champion all the way down to 12th place in points, and the final 5 will be locked in for their top 5 in points, but 6th through 12th is wide open to the rest of the field.
And I must say, what other hobby pays? That's a good question.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Josh, take it away.
As for the past 18 weeks, I have sat here. Well, realistically, 15 weeks. I wasn't here for a couple races, but let's glance over that. The past 18 weeks we were here. We were sitting here, hour and a half, 2 hours, and we didn't know what was going to happen. And back in Daytona, we had 30 cars, and that came down to Poulin and Frisch. And those 2 guys were in the final 5 18 weeks later. And Frisch comes out on top. I mean, there's no words other than amazing, outstanding, any other positive adjective that you can use to describe what we just watched in the past couple months. As if we glance through really super fast, Poulin, Frisch, Poteet, Bailey, Cosman, Baker, Taylor Morgan, Jeremy Stanley. So we got numbers correctly on my hands, 8 winners this season. There's a couple guys that showed up and then had some prior commitments, so hopefully, of course, we can have a full grid to run through the entire season of 2019B, season 22. But for season 21 for Solstice ProLine, it is in the books, and Michael Frisch, 7 wins out of 18 races and the championship. As we've had some fun for all of these races, and we hope to see you on July 11th at the CRI Super Speedway. From all of us here at HBMP, everyone who's joined us, Dylan Livengood, Dylan Body, Brandon Nicholson, you yourself, Brandon Lambert, Cody Erdman joined us in Pensacola, Caleb Paul for Daytona, Indianapolis, and I believe Nazareth. But from all of us here at High Voltage Media Productions, thank you so much for joining us. I am Josh Mertz, and we will see you in a couple weeks' time at the CRI Super Speedway for Season 22. But until then, so long, everyone.